do have a purpose, and if you hear me, you heard this, and my whole life it ain't worth this, no, my life it ain't worth it, just take a look at.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and NBs, welcome back, and hopefully I am back to a regular posting schedule, as I just had to spend the last week replacing the engine in the wife's car. It really sucks, as there is so much stupid going on right now, not only from people like Asmongold, Ethan Klein, or any of these right-wing centrists, but I actually came across a video today of a 36-year-old man being kicked out of his lair deep within the bowels of his mother's house by the police, complaining about how it is unfair, all while looking like the average non-cop viewer of Asmongold. Absolutely going to throw this one up later this week, just more pressing things to talk about today. Before we get into it, please make sure to like the video, as YouTube is definitely punishing me for that long hiatus, and no one else seems to be talking about how asinine and dangerous takes like this from Asmongold are, and could quite literally cause some of the most incredible music ever written or yet to be written to become illegal. Subscribe if you're new here and want to find your way back. What do you gotta lose? You can always unsubscribe later. Alright, let's get into it. So after the long, hot-ass week I had replacing the motor, I decided to stay in bed this morning as long as I could before the dogs rustled me out the door to play fetch. And the YouTube algorithm gods decided I absolutely had to see this asinine take from everyone's favorite troll, Asmongold.
The issue is that when you have somebody who's writing songs like this, they're flying foreign flags, etc., this is going to radicalize the national people there, and eventually there is going to be a reaction to that. This is a historical fact that dates back to before history. People just don't like this. And so did you like the song? I mean, what song? He just said the same two things over and over. Either way, comments like this and statements like this is going to be I will tell you guys, the reaction to this is going to be, I think it is going to be worse than anything that you can imagine. That's what I think.
Asmon doesn't realize that this is the rude awakening for the right, the very people he carries water for simply because it is beneficial for him both financially and gets him attention. If what Asmon is saying were true, John Fogerty would have ended the world with Fortunate Son when Creedence Clearwater Revival released it 50 years ago. I also can't help but ask if this isn't again just blatant Islamophobia, as Asmon didn't have this kind of smoke when bands like Leftover Crack released songs like One Dead Cop and Anti-Flag released a song called Racist, which ironically either called out people exactly like Asmongold or made jokes about the very people that follow him. Asmon had and still has nothing to say about these very same bands having songs talking about the move bombings of Philadelphia, in which the Philadelphia Police Department flattened an entire city block, IDF style, to silence dissenting voices that advocated for the return to nature and a rejection of modern society, or the Battle for Seattle demonstration against the World Trade Organization and globalization, which were aimed to shut down the ministerial conference and advocate for the right of labor. However, now that it is talked to stop the genocide in Gaza and against Israel, suddenly Asmon has a whole lot to say, which is really strange when he is on record saying,
"These people are not your allies. They are not the same as us. They come from an inferior culture that is horrible. It kills people for their identity, and it is directly antithetical to everything Western values stand for, and it is an inferior culture in all ways."
This disgusting pig dog doesn't deserve the platform he has, and he has genuinely become extremely dangerous as he thumbs his nose at protesters, dissenters, anyone who doesn't follow the fascist ideology he has bought into. And make no mistake, it is fascist. The petulant child and chimp-brained barbarian is sowing seeds of hate at a level people like Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro only dreamed of.
We are in for a very, very interesting next 10 years. And the more comments I see like this, the higher the probability I think there is, and the faster I think it's going to happen. Like, I just keep assuming it's going to take longer, but now IDF isn't a group of people. It's not a race or ethnicity. This guy is much better than you. Oh, he's much better at what? You've said worse yourself? Well, so this is really what I'm saying is that it's not a race or ethnicity. It kind of is a group of people, by the way. And the thing is that, again, if somebody said this about any other group of people or anything else, the same people will be crying. I mean, and again, you can get mad about this or say he's better than me or whatever. You can do whatever you want. But I'm telling you that I know what the response to this is going to be, and it's going to be really, really, really bad. It will be, and I can guarantee it. I think that every single time one of these events happens, it gets that much closer and that much faster. And so, yes, it will be. Yes, exactly. Response from who? I think I'll just say it in plain English. I think that what this is going to do is it's going to continue to elect people like this who call for shooting migrants and denying them food and water. I think this guy is going to be seen as a moderate in 10 years. And you're going to see people that increasingly feel like their country has been alienated away from them. And I think it's going to cause them to look up to and look for extreme right-wing figures that will use military and violent solutions in order to remove these problems. I think that's what's going to happen. And I think it's going to happen really, really soon.
First, I'd like to point out that Asmongold has said worse about an actual group of people, an entire race of people, not a standing military engaged in a genocide, than turning around and talking about the response to this, a musician putting on a performance, mind you, engaging in free speech and protest, is somehow Bob Villain's fault. The musician in question, Asmon, conveniently obfuscates all of the horrendous violence that has brought us to this point, from America's funding of Israel, the endless wars fought in the Middle East, both by proxy and boots on the ground, the homegrown terror of right-wing nationalists loyal to Asmon's very cause, the rapist in the White House, and exclaiming that war is peace, freedom is slavery, and ignorance is strength, almost as if giving marching orders to spineless talking heads like Asmon. As the chatter said, Bob Villain is absolutely better than you, as when you stand for nothing, you will fall for anything. It's why you're genuinely not a grifter, Asmon, as you're too fucking stupid to realize that you're a stooge. I can't help but wonder how ashamed your mother would be if she hadn't blown herself up, watching you advocate against your fellow people right here in America. Not those being black-bagged and abducted, no, it was before them. Either way, the clock is ticking. However, I do hope that your mom would have had just an ounce more self-awareness to realize that you are engaged in a war on the poor at the behest of the filthy rich. You don't care as it no longer affects you, and it's why you find yourself sad and alone as you desperately beg for validation every day when you click the button to go live.
A lot of people in like Nazi Germany didn't think it was going to happen, that nobody knew it was going to happen until it was already happening. And then people just basically accepted it.
Wake up, Asmon. It's not too late. You can stop advocating for the Fourth Reich, as you've already realized this time it will be at a global scale. That doesn't mean you need to simp for it, you fucking coward.
But anyway, so what's going to happen is it's going to alienate more and more people. And then once a large enough contingency of people become alienated, then those people will become militant. And when enough of those people become militant, and if they're organized enough, they will create a political revolution that will have a tremendously violent reaction. When you make reasonable conversation impossible, you make unreasonable outcomes inevitable.
It truly is insane that you didn't see the radicalization of men, the red pill, QAnon, MAGA, alpha bullshittery, podcast bros, whatever you want to call it. You chose to cash in and vie for attention instead of steeling yourself in the face of adversity. You sold your soul like the gutless trash you are. 5 years ago, you watched thousands of Americans storm the Capitol waving flags of a failed treason. You said nothing as these people smeared feces Nazis on the walls of Congress and erected a noose on the Capitol lawn. As neo-Nazis unloaded from the back of rental trucks carrying weapons and wearing ski masks, you sat idly by. As the war on the poor, downtrodden, gay, trans, black, brown, and women took place, you chose to smugly smile into a camera and simply say based, instead of standing up for those around you that weren't as fortunate. You played a pivotal role in creating the supposed male loneliness epidemic, which is really just an incredible case study in fuck around and find out.
Once people like this have one victory, it acts as a galvanizing force to just like multiply the amount of people that are actually holding these viewpoints. And you're going to see a lot of people, because this is a component to it I don't think is really discussed, that's discussed enough, is that a lot of people that are at, you know, these concerts or whatever, these would be people who would be cheering at Nazi rallies too. These people are just simply going with the flow. They're going with what the popular consensus is. They're going with what the zeitgeist is. And if that was a Nazi flag up there, you know, 80 years ago, it would have been their grandfather up there doing the exact same thing. Give me 1 second, sorry.
What you are seeing from musicians around the world like Bob Vylan, Kneecap, and so many others is nothing new. However, on this scale has not been seen in half a century. It's part of this rebellion you refer to as terrorism. People, at least here in America, exercising their constitutional rights to speak out in dissent against a fascist regime that would sooner use us as biofuel than listen to a single one of our concerns. You know this, though, as even from your carefully crafted hug box, surrounded by cuckold yes men like Tectone and his ilk, you still know deep down in what is left of your spine, no matter how flimsy it is, that the tides are turning. As you watch the rebellion continue to gather steam, and the screaming voices of Americans everywhere start to drown out the sad ramblings of an insecure little man, as the walls close in and you can no longer shelter your flock from the truth, you're going to have to make a choice. Admit you're wrong and burn your career to the ground as the white supremacist reactionary audience you have cultivated turns on you, or continue down this path and fade into obscurity, much like Nick Fuentes, Ben Shapiro, and countless other names before them. Either way, the clock is ticking.
IDF are terrorists? That's fine, but like, again, I think that like a lot, and this is the big issue that a lot of people like this have, is that people like you are so ideologically captured by what's right and wrong that you fail to see the basic human primitive survival mechanisms that will come into place. What's right and wrong doesn't matter. Who's dead and alive matters. And that's who decides every single war. Not who's right or wrong, but who's dead. And so that's it. And so you can go and make all these explanations of, oh, but that's not fair, and this is hypocritical or whatever, and that's fine. But, you know, again, you're never going to hear those people. History is written by the victors. Yeah, that's it. There is no morality in survival. There is only survival. And I think when people realize that, you're going to have a tremendous negative reaction with this. And I'm very worried about it too, because I think it's going to be a destabilizing force across the entire world, and I think it will be an overall bad thing too. You know, that's generally the way I see about it. But I'd rather be immoral than dead. Wild animals will kill babies. Yeah, they'll just kill babies, and they don't even care. It doesn't even occur to them. And you think that people can't go to that level? They'll instantly go to that level, and then it will be justified historically hundreds of years in the future. That's just the way it is. And so it's people have no idea how bad it can really get. And I feel bad for them, because I think they're in for a very rude awakening. They're living life in a distortion